Today's topic is public goods and the problems associated with the provision of public goods. Public goods have unique characteristics that make it unlikely that private markets or the private market system will provide the efficient quantity. And when this happens, market failure is said to occur. The term public goods does not necessarily refer to a good that is provided by the government. Instead, it refers to a good or any kind of service that has two unique characteristics, regardless of whether or not the government provides it. These two characteristics are non-rival consumption and non-excludability or non-exclusion. Now we first come to the first basic characteristic, that is non-rival consumption. A good is non-rival in consumption when with a given level of production, consumption by one person need not diminish or reduce the quantity to be consumed by anyone else. In other words, a number of people may simultaneously consume the same good. So one example will clarify this concept. So consider an anti-missile system that reduces the likelihood of foreign attack. So in this case, the protection of your property and person does not reduce the protection received by others. Even if you did not exist, the level of protection available to others would be unaffected. Thus, an anti-missile system is simultaneously protects a large number of people. Again, a flood control project, for instance, is also non-rival in consumption for those people living in the region where the probability of flooding is reduced. The project would not benefit people living in other regions, but it is still non-rival for the residents of that particular protected area. In contrast, most of the goods and services that we deal with in day-to-day life in economics are actually rival in consumption. For example, take the case of a house or a car. The more you consume, the less will be available for others. So in this case, consumption is rival, because there is a problem of deciding how to ration output among the rival consumers. So in this case, the price system, the market system resolves this problem by allocating a larger quantity to those individuals who place a higher value on the good, or in other words, those who pay a higher price for it. Okay. Now we come to the second characteristics of a public good, that is non-exclusion. Non-exclusion means that it is impossible, or it is highly costly to confine the benefits of the good to selected persons. A person will benefit from the production of that good regardless of whether or not he or she pays for it. Although that is, even if the consumer does not pay for the good, he or she cannot be excluded from consuming the good. So this is known as non-exclusion or non-excludability. So for a public good, the non-rivalry and non-exclusion occur simultaneously, but there is a distinction between the two concepts. Let us take an example to illustrate the distinction or difference between these two concepts. Suppose if we take the case of television broadcasting can make the distinction between non-rivalry and non-exclusion clear. So when a television program is broadcast, any number of people in that of course in that relevant area can receive the signal and watch it without interfering the reception of others. Thus, a broadcast has the non-rival characteristic of a public good. But it is, however, possible to exclude selected people from viewing the program. So people, for example, without television sets will be unable to watch the program, or the programs could be scrambled so that viewers could watch a program only after paying for a decoder. So a television broadcast is therefore non-rival in consumption, but exclusion is possible at a moderate cost, such a good that then does not have both the necessary characteristic of a public good. So when non-rivalry and non-exclusion go together, we have a public good. Now we come to the problems associated with the provision of public goods. The existence of public goods creates problem for a price system. Once a public good is produced, a number of people will automatically benefit, regardless of whether they pay for it or not. Since exclusion, as I have already mentioned, exclusion is very highly costly. So it is difficult for a private producer to provide the good unless the producers can collect money for supplying the good. They will be unable to cover their costs. So with private goods, the price system can function effectively, and there is no question of market failure. But with public goods, voluntary cooperation encounters a serious problem, which is known as the free rider problem. So with public goods, there is a crucial question, is whether voluntary cooperation through the price system will provide the efficient or appropriate quantity of a public good. So to understand why voluntary cooperation will not work in case of public good, let us consider a community of say 10 people thinking of financing the construction of a dam to reduce the probability of flooding. The dam is a public good for residents of the community. Assuming that the dam provides flood protection of 1000 rupees by each person, and that the total cost of the dam is say 5000. If the dam is built, the benefit to each of the 10 people's 1000, so that the total benefit would be 10,000, right? Because the benefit here is more, the benefit exceeds the cost. It is in the community's interest to build the dam, right? In particular, that the dam could be built if each person contribute rupees 500, and then everyone would be better off because each would receive a benefit of 1000, at a cost of 500. Okay, now suppose one of the 10 people believes that the other 9 will finance the good, whether or not he or she contributes anything towards the dam's construction. Due to high cost of exclusion, if the dam is built, each resident will receive protection regardless of whether he or she contributes anything. But the possibility of being able to benefit from the dam without bearing any of its costs gives each resident an incentive and a temptation to withhold any voluntary contribution. So if each behaves in that way, that is, if each behaves as a free rider attempting to avoid bearing any cost in the financing of a public good, then we have the problem of a free rider problem, where everyone wants to enjoy the good, wants to get benefit from the good, from that particular good, but no one wants to bear the cost of building the good, or producing the good. So this is known as free rider problem, and this is mainly associated with the provision of public goods. So the larger the group, the more severe is the potential of free rider problem, and therefore the more likely it is that a public good could not be financed by a voluntary contribution, and in that case government intervention becomes imperative for providing that particular public good.